Yo, all right, we are set. It's your boy Killy Cam. This is Anime Parley. If you're watching this, obviously based on the title of the video, we are talking about Luffy with Gear Second. Uh, Obviously, we recorded one pretty recently with Gear Fourth, and really just kind of taking it to task, honestly, in terms of what it could do better and why it might have been a little bit lackluster. If you're interested, go watch that video. We really get into it. But within that conversation, we talked about Gear Second. And to be honest, I feel like everybody on this call probably got a little inspired just talking about Gear Second, why it was special, and specifically why it is the standard of comparison for the gears. It is the first one that we get introduced to. And to be honest, in my opinion, one of the most impactful, maybe beyond Gear Fifth. So, like I said, it's your boy Killer Cam. I'll let the rest of the crew introduce themselves.
What up, y'all? Peace and blessings. It's your boy, Mr. Wild and Free.
Yo, what's up? It's Mugiwara Mike.
Bash Ketchum, let's get it.
Hey. Okay. All right. So, without further ado, I mean, that's the kind of the framework. In the past, we've had some fun with hot takes and, sometimes being a little critical of certain aspects of One Piece. This time, we're going to do a little bit different, and it's all about the love, and it's all about the appreciation. Specifically, Winota does a phenomenal job at laying the foundation of like a really hype moment, which in my opinion, a lot of hype moments are pre-time skip. So let's get into a clip. We're going to basically just kind of watch the introduction of Gear Second, and we'll dive into it and kind of talk about why it's particularly meaningful. So let's pull up our first clip. And here we go.
Roll the tape.
Roll the tape.
Roll clip A. But I love this this art style, dude. It's just really, really dope.
Very blocky.
Talking about blocks.
Nah, it's like it has like that pastel feel to it a little bit. You know, the colors, the backdrop.
People hate on this art style, but I miss it. I think it's like pretty classic One Piece.
I forgot how deep his voice was.
Yeah, he sounds awesome.
He's got a little good.
He also has one of the most broken devil fruits. I love Luna.
Yeah.
I love the way that Zoro was used, right? Where it just sounded like exploding from the air. It's pretty sick.
Yeah. It's like fireworks almost.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the steps
Luffy,
at least.
He's not able to break through because he doesn't have enough power. He's trying to punch through.
Not fast enough. He's catching up though.
Yeah.
I mean, he's holding
Those
his own,
sounds
but
are so
he
nostalgic.
can't. Yeah, he's holding his own. Dude, I love the way Japanese sounds.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so sick.
Subs over dubs every day.
Dude, classics, this One Piece fucking, well, not really good out, but it's classic.
Peak
rap,
One Piece.
That is kind of crazy though. One Piece really doesn't have training arcs like that when you think about it. That's such a standard for almost all series. All shonen.
Yeah.
It's
Except
true.
for maybe JJK.
Guess you don't need a training arc.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like with Naruto, you had some great ones.
You
Oh,
did.
Naruto's just all
Same thing
training
with,
arcs.
Dragon
That's the
Ball.
best part.
Yeah,
Right.
Training arcs my favorite type of
dude, it's the
like
best.
content in
Oh,
anime.
yeah.
It's all about the grind in Naruto, man.
This
Just
is
grinding
so
to get better.
Iconic when he's pumping his legs.
Right.
And he turns that mossy pink. You know what I mean? It's just cool
steamy.
color.
It's so sick. First time seeing this, it was just like,
Oh, right?
it's
With the
going
steam
on.
and everything, you're just what is this?
Yeah.
He's actually heating himself up.
This right here, when he puts his fist down and then says,
Oh.
so sick.
Yo, and it stops right there.
Yeah, so sick.
Okay, so let's
Crazy up next videos.
We'll I'm gonna go ahead and just stop sharing real quick. But okay, so we got that. Let's reflect on that for a second. Okay, so Gear Second obviously gets introduced. He's fighting Blano. He basically, I mean, we all obviously just watched it, but is struggling. Not necessarily getting beat up, but he's kind of being met evenly. right? He can't break through the Takai. He's not able to get any damage off on him. And then he basically is like, okay, like I learned from, these past instances, particularly with Aokiji, that in order to save the people that I care about, I need to get stronger. Like classic shonen protagonist motivation to protect the people I love. It's like classic Ichigo, honestly, but like to protect the people I love, I need to get stronger, right?
It's like Ichigo.
And within that moment, you get this really interesting, like he explains, like the purpose, the motivation, like why he's about to show us something new, something different. And it cannot be understated. And we're going to get to like what that looks like when he actually starts attacking Blueno. But it can't be understated, like just how monumental of a moment. If you were a One Piece fan at this time, this is, before you got spoiled that there was any other gears after this. This was just the first introduction of like one of the craziest power-ups, at least in my opinion, like in shonen, because it is so unique and so effective in terms of fighting, these new enemies that have these new and unique abilities. But specifically just the classic iconic design, the form, like the pose. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what did you guys think? I mean, what did you guys take away in terms of like, I don't know, just kind of rewatching it. I'm sure you haven't seen it in a little while, but like just how impactful that moment is.
Iconic, truly. Like it. I loved the practicality of it. I mean, just in the initial revelation, we don't really get the breakdown of the explanation, but when they finally do give that to us, right? Like it's just like, man, like I love that, right? Like in context to his powers as like a rubber human being, right? Like Gear Second just really did something, like you said, for those transformations in shonen. It really did something different that felt very nuanced for the One Piece experience, which I genuinely feel like was needed beyond the scope of the parroting that we have been seeing from like Dragon Ball Z and the traditional like, oh, you have Ki or Kai, or you power up and then that's it, right? So yeah, it was absolutely, no pun intended, transformational.
Yeah, I thought it was super sick. I really like that. I remember this moment very, very well when it happened. And like in this part of One Piece, like we had seen Luffy entering fights and like winning due to his like battle smarts and his like ingenuity and like how he would like switch it up in a fight. We really had no idea that devil fruits changed like this, or I mean, we find out later he has a very unique devil fruit, but when they introduced this, it was like it could have gone any direction. He could have just started getting really, really strong. Could have started doing all this other stuff. But in my opinion, this was the coolest possible way that this like normal, like not even very powerful fruit, the rubber fruit, how he was like even smarter. Like he figured he like hacked the system of this devil fruit and figured out an entirely different way of using it that maybe no one else would be able to do with their paramecias. So I thought that was, and then as you see, like the fight carries out, it's just the coolest fight.
Bash, one thing before you respond, dude. Like, yes, Mugiwara, 1000%. Like, I think it has to be said that prior to this moment, we thought we had seen the ceiling on Luffy's powers because we only had one power system in One Piece, right? It was like a hard power system, which was just devil fruits, right? And we thought at that time, we've seen everything that Luffy's fruit can do, right? He can stretch. He maybe can do different attacks. Maybe he'll do some kind of creative attack or something like that. But we had no idea that he would be able to pull this or add this into his arsenal as far as like a power. But like we had not seen anything like this prior to, other than maybe if you want to count like Zoro kind of tapping into like some aspect of hockey, which obviously they didn't call that hockey when he fought Daz Bones, Mr. One. Yeah. So, when he's able to basically just like cut through steel in this case, through basically just kind of like, watching that like the leaves move and all this other kind of stuff. It's kind of like mystical. Like if you go back and watch that fight, but like, it's just really important. Like Mugiwara, you were saying to really underscore that as fans, we had no idea that this was even possible, that like you could have some kind of extended power beyond just what seems prescriptive of your fruit.
Right.
which really opened up the world and obviously the kind of fights that we would get, particularly within this arc, which introduced us to a very different level of fighting. Bash, what
Right.
were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys. As far as this reveal of Gear 2, it's our first look at the actual intricacies of what you can and can't do with the devil fruit, and you can go, very in depth to say that Luffy heated up his body so much to the point where he turns pink and starts steaming, and then he's just that much stronger to get these fights handled. But
Yeah.
also, to be honest with you guys, this isn't the Blue Note fight is not the one that stands out to me when I think about it. For me, I mentioned it before. It was the Rob Lucci fight because I feel like that fight to me was more
Yeah.
impactful for the series and the story,
Yeah.
and you really got to see like two strong head honchos at the time like throwing hands, which was super exciting for me. The Blue Note one just really doesn't like ring a bell or like, oh yeah, that fight was so sick. You know
Well,
what I
no,
mean?
just wait, because like that's
Yeah.
just that's the episode that leads into. 'Cause
Right.
Again, we just left on a cliffhanger, right? Like we're just seeing this
For
fight for
sure.
the first time. The next video clip that we're gonna watch is the actual fight with Luffy and Bluno, and you get to see just how much of a difference. Because obviously the clip that we just watched demonstrates they're evenly matched.
Yeah.
Luffy can't seem to break through this current power level. Like there's a hard ceiling, visibly, with what Luffy is able to do and to accomplish in his fight, which is effectively hold his own, but not necessarily be able to kind of make any edge in terms of damage being delivered or anything like that. Anybody else got any other thoughts before we jump into this next clip?
Nah, I mean, I have thoughts, but I think it'll be more contextual after this clip.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
So, hey, listen, if you guys are watching at home, and obviously you are, what we do or what we get is this, kind of cliffhanger ending that Luffy is introducing some new power, right? We have no idea what it is, no idea what it can do. All we know, and I think even at the time, it's like, oh, this is crazy, but like, what does it actually mean? We're going to get into that. And more specifically, we're going to get to see basically just like a prelude of everything else that really defines Luffy and defines the series to come in this next clip. So let's load this up real quick and let's see what happens to Bueno.
All right.
All right.
Here we go.
Oh, the tape.
Ikso? Like this dude's voice is even echoing. This is awesome.
All right.
意味がわからん。我々に会ったから仲間を失おうとしているんじゃないのか。いよいよ言ってることがおかしくなってきたな。錯乱でもした
His face right there is hilarious.
I know. Like that smile is just so iconic, dude. Like this
Yeah.
moment. Like even that stance, bro.
The first punch.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so sick.
The first punch, yo.
Dude, he catches him mid-Soru.
Where you going, boy?
Go.
Punches him like into like concrete. Look at his face, bro. Look at
Bloody
his
as
face when he
hell.
gets
He's
hit.
like, wait a minute.
Bro, he's like, what is happening right now?
Yup.
Bro, he does not let up. He just blitzes
Folded.
him. Dude, he came down out of the air and punched him in the stomach.
Boy is shook, bro.
Bro, he is disappearing. We're gonna get into this. He's scared, right? He's terrified right now. Dude, the kick from behind the head.
Bouncing off the walls. Oh my
Dude,
gosh.
he grabs him
And
by
the
his
spear.
horns.
Oh no, that was an old-fashioned beat down right
Dude,
there,
that
boy.
is crazy, bro.
Right.
That is
Oh,
insane
that,
flash.
I didn't remember how sick that is.
Dude, that's what
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
saying, bro. It's like, and the thing too is like,
First
Blano
time
has
we
to
witnessed
run.
that.
We didn't see it, but like,
He ain't
Blano
ready.
has to run in that fight. He literally has to like
Yeah.
use his little door fruit and escape, like get away from Luffy just for like a breather, because he's getting beat up so bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
that is
that's
classic
insane.
One Piece, and that is a classic, infamous. I mean, not infamous, but like famous
Yeah.
moment of Luffy just going ham. Like, and just the
Yeah.
speed of that. Like, you really feel they animated that so well, because you really feel this is Luffy like disappearing with pure speed, like.
Yeah.
So unpredictable because of that speed in his attacks. It's kind of like Ichigo when he first uses Bankai
Yeah.
against
yeah.
Kuchibaki, and he's
Facts.
like just like speed blitzing him. But like I mean, this is just such a hype moment, specifically
Yeah.
because of what we'd seen prior to that, which is Luffy's completely outmatched, can't do anything, can't even save his friends, and gets thrown between like two buildings. Which I do want to revisit that scene because I love that scene from Water 7. It's just it's such a crazy moment. People don't think about it. You guys know what I'm talking about, right?
I
Where he
think
like splits the buildings apart
Yeah.
when Luffy.
in Water
Yeah, I
7.
remember
Yeah,
this.
he gets stuck between the buildings and
Yes,
splits them
yes,
apart,
yes,
and
yes,
that's like
yes.
the first time we ever see him do something that's like that crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know.
That was
Anyways,
amazing.
okay, thoughts. Everybody give me your thoughts.
So what I was gonna say is like, even you mentioning like everything that we've seen prior to this moment, right? Like the reason why this Gear 2 transformation and specifically the speed was so impactful, right, is because, like One Piece, we've been with it for some time. Even this early in the series, right? Like it is already one that has like, okay, we've got episodes in there, right? Like we've kind of gone through some arcs to get here. And so we have seen time and again Luffy in these battles and the way that his power works, right? And we see uh effectively that delay, that charge up time every single time he has to move, stretch the arm back, the extending of the fist and all of these things. They were always exaggerated in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And so it really plays into how much that speed increase mattered and made a difference when he made that first punch and it just like invisibly like hit, like you see the extending and it's already hitting him, right?
Yeah.
So that was something that really was impactful for me. It was just like, oh snap. Like we get the payoff of seeing Luffy kind of at these lower levels and we're finally here at Gear 2. But what I was gonna say about this particular fight, especially to Bash's point, where he was like, the fight with
Excuse me.
Lucci was a bit more prominent. This fight with Bluno was the equivalent to me as Goku versus Nappa after he got his power up, because he basically folded Nappa. Or was it Nappa or was it Buddy from the Ginyu Force with the tomahawk? But one of them two, I'm forgetting at the moment.
I think it
But he
was
folded one of them very quickly before getting to his actual fight. I believe it was Nappa because I think he was about to go fight Vegeta.
Yeah.
I
And
think it
so
was
this
Nappa.
fight with Bluno was very reminiscent of that moment when Goku fought Nappa because it was like, all right, let me get your little second-hand commander / lieutenant out the way, and then I'm gonna deal with the big boss, right? And so I think that it's a very great way to level set, to introduce the power, to let us know, like, okay, cool, there is a substantial differentiator here between where he was just at versus what he is now capable of. So it let us go into that Lucci fight with the understanding that, oh, yeah, no, there is absolutely capability and certainty here that he has a chance in this fight. Because before that moment, it was like, if you can't even beat Bluno, how the heck do you think you're gonna beat Lucci, right?
Right.
Yeah, no, I mean 100%. Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, say what you wanted to say. I was
No,
just gonna add my point next.
no, I was going to add into Mr. Wildenfree's point about obviously we're connecting this to the idea of what is a Super Saiyan moment, right? Obviously, we're not necessarily strictly speaking talking about Dragon Ball Z, but really what we're talking about is a transformative, iconic power up, right? Whether that is, Luffy going Gear Second, or obviously in the case of Goku going Super Saiyan, or maybe like Ichigo going into Bankai, or obviously Naruto going into his QB mode, or chakra mode, or whatever, in all the different variations, right?
Yeah.
It is an iconic. Iconic is in impact, and iconic is in visual, like the design of it.
Yeah.
This was that moment for One Piece, and we were kind of getting that again with Gear 5, but specifically
For sure.
at this point in the story, and it cannot be understated, particularly coming out of, we've talked about this before, but coming out of Skypiea, where like that was
I'm
just
adding
like
that
a
to my
pure
dictionary.
departure arc, right? Because it really had nothing to do with the main story. If you were reading and following One Piece at the time, it was, and we talked about this, but like Skypiea was a great arc, great story, one of my favorites, but it was completely disconnected at the time from the main story. And if you've been watching One Piece or reading it, you're kind of like, okay, we get Alabasta, Then we have from Alabasta, you know, Jaya, and you know, kind of this again, just kind of continue to traverse the Grand Line. It feels kind of random. Obviously, we meet Blackbeard, and then we get into Skypiea, and we're kind of like, well, why are we going there? It's not really kind of looking for the One Piece. Like, we're just going to just check and see if this place exists. So at the time, if you were following the series, at least for me, I remember like, you know, Naruto was going on, Bleach was going on, and it was kind of like, this is kind of slow. Like, I don't really understand like really what's going on or what we're doing. Yeah, it's fun, it's One Piece, it's whatever, but like, it's kind of losing me because what's more interesting or what's happening in Naruto or what's happening in Bleach is more interesting in this moment. And then we get to Water 7 in Enos Lobby, and everything changes. And it changes because of the speed and the caliber of the fighting and the combat specifically from this moment. So like going from this series is kind of in a weird lull and I don't really know what's happening. Is this just like another story of the week kind of thing where we're just going to like different places? Like it's not really that interesting. There's nothing connecting me to the world or to the ultimate goal of the protagonist. To Enos Lobby where everything is like being pressed, right? We're getting world building specifically with Luffy doing something like surviving a Buster call and, you know, a crew member gets kidnapped, another crew member leaves, like everything is just changed in these arcs. And one of the biggest changes obviously is this moment where we get a completely new power level and a completely new power up for Luffy. Mugiwara, go ahead.
For sure.
I was gonna say, like, watching this with the old animation and everything everything that we just watched was just like, it was so awesome and nostalgic, but also where the animation is now, like I'm absolutely loving the grand scale and like all the crazy fight scenes. Like Luffy, if you're watching the recent episodes, like Luffy goes and runs for a kick, and it's almost like he's flying through the air at light speed for like what feels like 2 miles before he hits Kizaru, and you're just like, oh, like color, and like he's as fast as a jet flying through the air, hitting Kizaru, and there's explosions all over the place. But like this way that fight took, like it was to scale. They're moving just within this roof, and it was just like super quick and calculated, more of like a realistic fight, and just like the power that when he just hit him mid movement, when he hit Bluno right off like rip, right, just in the impact, you just feel it, and it was so quick and just like calculated, but in like a simple way. I kind of like missed that in the fights. Like, if Luffy with what his power now, and it was all the grandiose scale of the fighting, was like he has the power now, and the scale of the animation is still amazing, but without like a galaxy level stuff going on in the background. It would be pretty. It's something I miss.
Well,
I'm not gonna lie.
Much. I mean, that's
the
point.
Like,
the animation's great, but it's too. You kind of end up with you know, not to compare it again to another anime, but like you end up with a Naruto level of. You guys remember when Naruto is fighting Orochimaru, and he's in like his like 3 tails.
Which time?
And there's literally like it's an hour-long episode or something crazy like that. It's like a 2-part or 3-part or something, and he's charging up for like 15 minutes. Like just like things are exploding and all this other kind of stuff, and like you see all this like, you know, red lightning or chakra or whatever, right? And it's like it's just extending the moment, which Mugiwara, to your point, weakens the impact. You actually, it's the reason why I love reading the manga. It's like you actually need to feel those punches because they're quick, because they're instant.
Yeah, like imagine the fights now where he's fighting Kizaru, and it was just the moment between them hitting each other is as fast as to be represented by someone that has light speed and someone that's accomplished Gear 5. Like they'd be like like the fight would be like super calculated and like almost martial art style, and they'd be using all their different like observation hockey. They're using armament when it comes. Like it would be that fight that we just saw, but like detailed and complicated, and but like so much faster and purposeful. I don't know. But I love what's going on now. It's just a totally different direction than a fight that actually looks like a fight, you know, rather than an art piece.
I definitely got. Well, that's since you said it, I feel like I need to say it now though. I'm gonna make an analogy to honestly music, right? Where it's like what we just witnessed with the fight between Luffy and Bluno felt like a lyricist doing their best work, right?
Yeah.
And then what we get, obviously, spoiler warning for those who aren't fully caught up on the anime, 11:25, right? When we see Luffy fighting Kizaru and all of the spectacular things, and we've been seeing this since Wano, it feels like the producer getting his credits on the track, right?
That's
Where
fine.
it's like
Right.
now the
Yeah, yeah.
producer is having that more prominent presence in the music. That's what it feels like because, if y'all have been seeing it across social channels as well, there's a lot of accolades and respect being given to the animators on these series and talking about like, oh, like the animator was doing this on this episode and that got them the animation on this other anime. So
Yeah.
you get a really great opportunity for the animators to really show up and represent their artistry, which
Sure.
I think is actually very dope. It does help what once was, right? Which is back in the day with these episodes, and especially what you were talking about, Cam, in regards to these elongated moments, we definitely see a lot of that through One Piece and
Mhm.
other animes in that time. But naturally that was because one, along with fillers, they were trying to extend those episodes for as long as they possibly could to, milk the mangas and wait for those next chapters to roll out. Now, I'm grateful for the seasonal approach, but even in those moments where they have to milk a moment to extend it, at least now we're getting some visual spectacle that's really treating the moment with more regard. Like there's absolutely moments where I'm watching the anime where I'm like, oh, now like I'm getting everything I wanted out of this anime that I couldn't have gotten from just the manga,
Yeah.
And that
Right.
is in stark contrast to what we were getting before.
No, it's a solid point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Um,
the operative word, right, is like spectacle for sure. I mean,
Mhm.
it's like a visual treat watching it. I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's kind of six in one hand, half dozen in the other. I think that sometimes they can kind of undercut the impact. But that's what the manga's for. Mugiwara, were you gonna say?
you
Yeah.
you know
Or
the
Bash.
best. Sorry, right before you get into Bash, I have a good example because there's obviously different people working on different fight scenes. A fight scene that kind of represented, still very grandiose, but represented the speed and scale of what we just saw here. But like, if everything was to be modernized from what we just watched with Bluno, like the scene that I would imagine is closest to it was Lucci, Zoro, Luffy versus the Seraphim
Yeah.
inside of, I think they were in Labo phase. One
Egghead.
of the, yeah, an Egghead.
Yeah.
Like that was a super calculated, fast fight. Every single move was pop, pop, pop here, there, and it wasn't the grand. It was still amazing animation,
Yeah.
but it was like a more martial art, proper proper scale of the powers going on rather than like
Yeah.
But I
I
thought
think
that was a yeah.
I think it's and Bash, I want to get your thoughts, but I think what you end up seeing is you end up seeing the animators know which ones are kind of like the crowd favorites, right? Like they know the hits by the manga. So like
Yeah.
for instance, they know that the clips of Galaxy Punch are going to be crazy. They know the clips of like Honesty, Impact are going to be crazy. They know that I don't know, I'm trying to like not spoil anything in the manga, but let's say like within Egghead that Luffy going gear fifth and going head to head with Kizaru is going to be like a crazy
Right.
moment. So like they know, okay, this is where the majority of our budget's going to go. So we're going to like really make these scenes spectacular. Whereas Mugiwara, to your point, the lesser scenes of like, we're still talking about Egghead, but we're talking about like the, scuffle, right, with the newly introduced Seraphim before they end up basically getting like imprisoned in the bubbles. That is going to be like a lesser moment. But honestly, to your point, like because it necessarily requires less of a budget, you get a better fight, in my opinion. Like you get a more impactful fight. You still get good choreography, but like you get a more, they're not trying to kind of do like the crazy animation and all this sort of stuff. So you end up getting a cleaner fight, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Bash,
Yeah.
what are you gonna say?
Yeah, so my take on it when I rewatch that clip there is holy cow, like Luffy went 0 to I'm better than you real quick.
Fast.
which is amazing to see. But um, what I think is truly amazing and beautiful about that clip is when I think about it, it's the simplicity of it, right? Because we haven't been introduced to hockey yet. We haven't been introduced to that level of power scaling. We don't know about some of the biggest, baddest, toughest enemies that are out there yet. Your Kaidos and your Big Moms and your Awakened Devil Fruits and things like that. So to see Luffy go into Gear 2 and immediately just level up as quick as he does, it's kind of amazing to see that now, and to kind of it's kind of perfect timing for where we're at currently in the anime now with him fighting Kizaru.
Yeah.
That he's lightning fast and he's fighting a
Mhm.
light fruit guy right now.
Yeah.
So the contrast is really really beautiful to see from
I
where
mean,
we were to where we are.
We're gonna watch the
yeah,
Rob Lucci clip in a second,
for
but there
sure.
is one thing that I want to add to that point, Bash, which is like One Piece doesn't use training arcs. It uses time skips, or at least it used one, but it doesn't do training
Yeah.
arcs. So like to be able to, for Oda to one create an iconic power up, right? Visually, in terms of its impact, it doesn't really disrupt the story. It makes complete sense, right? But two, to be able to introduce that through writing that doesn't feel like it's some magical kind of power up, like specifically like Luffy pumps his legs, it basically, distributes the nutrients of his body quicker and it allows his muscles to move faster or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
That is such a brilliant way to do a mid arc power up, because that's effectively what it is. Luffy just comes up with it, right? So he doesn't have to stop and be like, okay, Luffy's going to train for a little bit and then come to like fight the big baddies or whatever. Oda does it in a masterful way where he introduces a mid-arc power-up that makes sense, that doesn't feel like like an ass pull, effectively, and just throws it into the story. And it's not even just that. I mean, obviously, we're going to get into Gear Third, but it's just such a seamless, understandable, reasonable, and impactful power-up that just gets thrown into the story. And it's very difficult to do that. If you think of any of your favorite manga, anime, whatever stories, most of the time they'll have like a break. Like Ichigo with Bleach is known for that, where they'll like, he goes into the Dawn guy and then trains for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's basically a hyperbolic time chamber. I mean, effectively, it's what it is, right? Dragon Ball
Facts.
Z, hyperbolic time chamber. Naruto, he leaves and goes to Dry for a little bit. He leaves and goes somewhere else for a little bit. Like he constantly kind of leaves to like have these moments independent of this arc, right?
Yeah.
One Piece, to its credit, has pretty masterful writing where it can introduce power-ups that feel real, that feel genuine, that don't feel like Deus Ex Machinas, and just delivers these really incredible moments. So hats off to Oda for that. That's just like a really masterful skill.
One
Mr.
thing
Waterford,
I
go
want to
ahead.
say,
Yeah, go ahead.
only because you brought it up, Justin, I never thought of it this way before, but now I kind of have to think of it this way. Only as an effort to give deference to what Oda was able to achieve with Gear 2. But when you talk about ass pulls, right? Like, I love Hunter x Hunter. Spoiler alert here, right? So if you haven't watched Hunter x Hunter, but what Gon pulled during that Chimera Ant arc, that was an ass pull. That was for sure. Like, where did that come from? It wasn't very plausible.
Yeah.
But we accepted it. You know what I'm saying? Like that
when he
definitely-
fought
Talking about his
Pichu?
blow up when
I
he got
disagree. I
big.
disagree.
Dog,
I don't
When
want
he
to get
fought
too into
Pichu?
this.
crazy, bro.
I
Such an
get
asshole.
the argument, but here's
Dude,
the
that
thing:
was
it's
the
like
sickest thing ever.
it's
It was
a
amazing.
Nen,
Don't
get me
it's a
wrong.
Nen vow, because we've established that
Yeah.
there are Nen vows, right? That you can make a vow with your Nen. And
Yeah, he was supposed to
for more
die.
power. So he exchanged whatever. Like you almost have to look at Nen as like equivalent exchange in Full Metal Alchemist, right? It's like this kind of mystical force that you
It's a
can
good way to put it.
negotiate with to some degree.
That's a great way to.
But either way, I don't know. But I don't want to detract, because that's a good point, and
Fair,
we would love
yeah.
to do some Hunter x Hunter content in the future. You guys keep watching,
Right.
keep hitting that like button. We got
Subtle
some thoughts
nudge.
on other properties that we'd like to talk
We'll get
about.
some Hunter x Hunter in there eventually.
Yeah, let's throw some Hunter x
Yeah.
Hunter. But okay, let's
But yeah,
load
back-
up let's load up the third
back
video.
to this one.
Let's look at Luffy. Let's look at the culmination of Gear Second, because this is like this is the Rocky moment of One Piece. In my opinion, it's still the greatest moment of One Piece fighting history. So let's load it up.
Let's go.
And all right, let's dive in.
Sheesh.
Dude, this moment with like Usopp like kind of hyping
Falling
up
out to
Luffy.
it. Yeah.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
Now,
Dude,
actually,
she's so
that
sick.
that moment, I'll take a note there. Just remember that.
Usopp did the bird call. He needed the homies to back him.
Right.
Dude, like
God,
even like the
Usopp's been slacking so hard, man.
Look how sick this fight is, man. The
Yeah,
blood.
amazing. And this is the end of the fight. There's so much like the fight goes on for so long. I feel like there's so
Oh
much-
yeah. There's so much build up before this.
Oh, dude. This guy,
Little pistols.
Luffy just
You're right.
Yeah, exactly. Luffy just blowing like air blasts is insane.
God.
Dude, in this moment right here where he gets the Shigan like right to the chest.
Oh,
Insane.
Like, he's
Eat
supposed to
that.
die
He
by
eats
now.
that.
Because
Insane.
he had already gotten hit by it and like devastated him. But this moment
Yeah.
where he doesn't fall down, he stands
Yeah.
up like, oh my gosh, bro. Like,
Bro, he ate this shit.
bro, he doesn't fall down. He's like, I gotta save my crew. Just pulls it straight out of the mud.
Right.
Being rubber just makes him so. What a genius.
You're right.
Bro,
Which is
it
like,
it
oh
makes
my
him
god.
so
bro.
This
durable.
look on Luffy's face when he's just like, I'm really gonna give you this right now. Dude,
There's like
okay, I don't know if you
mirage
guys
in the
agree
air
yet,
there.
But dude, like the jet Gatling gun,
Yes.
when you literally see the individual like fists, they're moving so fast,
Right.
it's like with multiple hands. Insane. And then he punches him through the wall. Like, oh my god,
Right.
bro. Like, this is the craziest finish in One Piece history. I'm just gonna put that out.
Bro, that jet Gatling gun is low key like not talked about enough, bro. That was
It's not.
sick.
It's
There
not.
is no greater finish for a villain than that moment right there. I'm just putting
Oh
it
my
out there, dude.
And the slow mo
I'm just
for it
putting it out
too,
there,
like
dude.
when those fists were
Oh
hitting, and he's
my
like, "What
God.
the is happening to
Dude.
me?"
He punches it like dude, just
Insane.
like the little like just getting hit, bro. Like, oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah.
It's so
I love
sick.
it when they slow it down so like you can actually see the fist, but
Oh,
then
yeah.
it shows where it's just straight up smoke
Yeah.
and
Oh,
like
yeah.
his arms disappear. Like he was bodying him. But the one
Gosh.
thing I wanted to point out there, like right at the beginning of that final, clash, Rob Lucci, like he kind of went down from he went from that slim version to like the
Yeah.
bulkier version of his Zoan. And that kind of leads into other conversations like we've either had on or off camera. Spoiler alert for those that don't know. And more relevant than what we were just talking about with Luffy clashing with Kizaru in the later episodes. But we actually get a reunion with Lucci, right? And we get to see Gear 5 Luffy going against Rob Lucci in his more powerful form. He isn't awakened. And so that power that we see, that awakened version of himself. I know Cam, Killer Cam, you've had some comments on that in regards
Got
to
so nuts.
Why was he able to keep up with Gear 5
Yeah,
Luffy?
he was-
Bro, I was
So
just
many
like, dude,
thoughts
don't
about
even
that.
don't even set up Lucci in this way. He's gonna take the L. We all know he's gonna take the L, but you're gonna give him a little too much credit. This,
you didn't even think his
I
awakened
think
he didn't have a
version
shot.
had like
he had no shot.
even that you were like, it just was like not even relevant. He was like, the awakening didn't even do anything for him physically. But if you
Yeah.
go back and look, there was actually a physical difference. Like the form factor kind of shifted a little bit in his awakened form. But it's unique because it does mimic some of those characteristics that we just saw in that fight, right? From that slender version. His awakened form is more so of like an optimization of that form more so than his bulkier form. And it leads me to think, right? What if Rob Lucci also has gears like, well, not gears, but forms like Luffy does, right? Like more specifically, probably like Gear 4 Luffy, where he has Bound Man, Tank Man, and Snake Man.
Well, that's a
we
specific
see
form.
it's a specific form, but what if
Like he had a name for it.
Lucci, right?
Yeah, like he had a name
See?
for it. He let me
But
pull it
that's
up.
the zone. That's the
It's
situation
the
with the
zone
zones.
situation.
Well,
yeah.
no, I mean, I think it was
To
an
a
aspect
degree.
of his Rokushiki technique. I'll pull it up for you guys. But that's a
Okay.
very specific form of his. Let's see, what's it called? Is it called
Awakening.
this? Yeah. Okay. It's called Seimei Kikan. Let me just share my screen real quick.
Got you. Yeah.
Let me do this. Let me do a little bit of this. I love One Piece Wikia. It is a great resource. Okay, so Seimei Kikan.
sure.
It has been revealed that Lucci can perform Seimei Kikan like
Right.
Kumadori and use it. So Kumadori obviously isn't his own for user, right?
Right.
He's just able to control his hair literally through these Rokushiki techniques. but he can alter his own transformation to amplify specific skills, right? And then
Right.
I think we even get a visual of it. Maybe not. Okay, yeah, here we go. This was it. This is a very terrible.
Yeah.
This is a very terrible frame. This looks terrible, but like, yeah, I mean, this was the skinny form. Then he, had went back into his buff form.
Right.
But either way, right?
Yeah.
The point being is like, I feel you. I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, maybe in the future, like, there's different alterations. I feel like the only Zoan Fruit Ryuzu who can really kind of change form like that is obviously Chopper. Maybe if you count Marco with like controlled application of like which appendages get turned into the Phoenix.
Nah, that doesn't count.
You know what I mean?
Like, I think that's like a basis for all Zoans. I think like we've established that we have their human form, their hybrid form, and then their full animalistic
Animal form.
form, right?
Yeah, but Marco's different
but,
though. 'Cause
yeah.
Marco's got like he can do like Phoenix claws on his feet, keep his human body, and then do like wings.
Right.
I mean, but I don't. People kind of overhype Marco a little bit. I think he's strong, but like I don't feel like we've seen.
I
a
don't
lot.
know, dude.
I mean, he's
I mean,
strong.
he's
We
just
haven't
older
really
now.
seen anything
He's
else
not
from him.
overhyped. He's
What
not
feats-
overhyped.
What feats does he
He can
have?
heal too.
What feats?
can
does
Dude,
he
Yeah,
have?
he's
it's
he's
just-
basically like in a way he has some kind of regeneration factor that's like
sure.
for
But
sure.
like I'm
probably
talking about, like
highest.
we've seen him do one thing that was hype, which was he clashes with Akainu. Or
Yeah,
I think it's
man.
either
I
forgot
Akainu
about
or it's
that.
Kizaru. I forget that. Like obviously
Yeah.
he's Marine for, but he clashes with him for like a hot second,
Yeah.
and then that's it.
That's
And
crazy
technically,
because
Vista
I actually
did-
forgot
But
that.
dude, like Vista
Holds
did
his
the same.
own, though.
Vista did the same thing.
Yeah.
If you remember.
Yeah,
Vista-
Right, exactly.
You
Vista did
also
that.
have
It's
to
like, who is
remember
Vista?
Akainu is like
Yeah.
a fleet admiral.
For
Sure.
sure. I mean, no,
Sure, but
like it was an incredible moment, but ironically, I remembered Marco clashing with King and Queen more than I remembered him clashing with Akainu, right? Like
I
just
mean, he held his own
because,
against Queen. Well, I
Yeah.
guess he's fighting both of them.
but
right?
he had a moment where he had to fend off both King and Queen at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think that was more impactful to me just because, we're at Wano, late stage in the game. We know how strong the Straw Hats had to become in order to get to Wano and the threat that they were facing from, the Beast Pirates. And so to see Marco there a couple years later fending off two of,
right,
effectively
in
the
Marine
right
Corps.
and
The
left
1 and
wing,
2. Yeah.
the number 1 and 2 of Kaido's team, right? Like,
Well, they weren't.
that was
serious, though,
impressive.
yet. Yeah, I mean, I don't think. I mean, that's the problem where it's like it was nice to see Marco. It was good to see him in the arc. Oda had to do kind of a two-hander, which is like, here's some fan service. Everybody likes Marco. He's like a pretty popular character. We're gonna throw him in the arc, but he can't really do too much because we
Yeah,
have these other kind of coterie of heroes that need to have their own moments. So really,
Yeah.
he's just kind of fending them off, and then effectively, he kind of just disappears within the arc. I don't really remember where he goes or what he does, but he kind of
He
just
does
stops fighting.
disappear.
He bows out when he hands the
Yeah, I mean,
the
he almost
leading
literally says,
role
like, it's
to
the young
Zoro.
generation to
He's
kinda
like, the star of the show is here.
Yeah, he's like
and Zoro pulls up.
It's like it's you guys to show.
Yeah, the
basically.
stars of the show.
Yeah.
He was major in not letting them get turned into those zombies.
Oh yeah,
Some of the
yeah,
ice on him?
facts. Yeah, because of his
That was a
Phoenix
great
flame.
moment for
powers.
Chopper too, by
His
the way.
flame.
Flames.
It's kind of. I mean,
It was.
I think they wrote that really. Not they. Oda wrote that really well. Where it's like, you have Queen. He's kind of like this mad scientist or whatever. He doesn't really care. I mean, you kind of have him kind of like cribbing off of Dr. Hogback a little bit and a little bit of Caesar Clown, but he doesn't mind kind of experimenting on people or whatever. He turns people into ice on his, which by the way is like a pretty actually great little I don't know, device, right? And then obviously it was hinted that he was
Yeah.
the person who made the poison that Jack used in Zoe, but giving Chopper that moment to like solve it was just so
Yeah.
great. I don't know. I mean, I think that's like, you have Sanji. I mean, I'm not gonna say he cooks, but he has these moments where he does this like kind of Mr. Bond espionage kind of stuff, and he like does this stuff in the background.
Yeah,
Not for real, like does this cool stuff in the background.
was
and then
cool.
You have
Settlement.
Chopper doing what he does, which is curing the people. All right, any more thoughts, guys? We got another one.
I'm down to have one more quick thought,
Sure,
and
yeah.
it's just because the Marco, you hitting on Marco a little bit, like he has no feats. I know that there was a ton of feats, and I didn't have them off the top of my head, but I have a small list right here,
Yeah, good. Yeah.
just from Marineford. Blocks Kizaru's barrage of light beams,
Okay.
kicks Kizaru, which sends him flying towards the ground and causes a big explosion.
Okay.
Kicks out Kiji, which sends him flying.
Okay.
Slashes at Akainu with Haki, which cuts cuts through his magma, which Akainu describes as irritating, and stops Akainu's
that's a
magma
feat.
punch, which is so hot that it can melt a nearby sword without touching it. And then it
Right.
goes into all of his stuff what we were just talking about in Wano, but there's like 10 different ones.
Yeah.
Like, so he just clashed with 3 admirals right there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
true.
I mean, I feel you. I mean, but here's the thing: it's like he's
Who
the
else?
first commander of.
Who else has, you know?
He's the first commander of Whitebeard, right? Like we assume that he's reasonably
Yeah.
strong, and he's also younger, so it's like he should be
Yeah.
able to hold his own against an
He's
admiral.
got to be strong.
I mean, he
Yeah,
should be able to
sure.
hold his own against an admiral. Maybe not beat an admiral, but should be able to hold his own. We haven't seen a pirate, obviously, within the world of One Piece until sort of kind of recently with Luffy beat an admiral outside of Whitebeard. We've never seen that happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I kinda
And
wish-
Luffy technically hasn't beaten an admiral because Kizaru.
He
Was,
I kinda
let
wish
himself
that, like,
be
it's
out.
gonna
This
sound a
is
little dark, but
complicit.
I kind of wish that Whitebeard had killed, Akainu on the spot. Like I'm like, dude, like he just killed his son. Why wouldn't you kill him? Like
Great.
he's just like,
Yeah.
he like punches him or
Just for
whatever,
plot.
and, like hurts him, and then it's just like, dude, like.
Unironically,
Like, finish them all.
unironically,
Now,
that was
kill him.
that was antagonist plot armor. That's
no, straight up.
exactly
It's like,
what
we
that
need to-
was.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. This is another
Yeah.
conversation, and we will talk about this. But
Yeah.
I do want to have a discussion where we speculate on what the heck Oda's doing with Akainu, because he is the person. Because there's a lot of animus that like Oda's
Akainu.
kind of
Yeah.
pumping Luffy filled with. That sounds weird, but
Yeah.
whatever. Towards Blackbeard, because
Pause.
Blackbeard is the person who like ultimately defeated, Ace and betrayed him, and then got him thrown in jail, and then ultimately executed. But like
True.
Akainu was the person who killed him. So I'm like,
Yeah.
Luffy needs to get that head up with Akainu. Akainu's kind of like dodging the fade right now. So I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
we need to see them reunite, and I need to see Luffy do what he did to Kizaru, but do that to Akainu. I don't want.
I think
Nah,
Dragon
listen.
and him are going to have something go down soon.
It's got,
Oh,
no,
that'd be
it can't
interesting.
be
God
Dragon, though,
Knights
dude.
are
We
looking.
need
It
to see
can't be
Dragon fight.
It's gotta be.
Why
Luffy.
couldn't it?
No, I think Dragon
well,
and him were
yeah.
like
It's too-
homies back in the day.
The story needs.
That's true.
The story needs a moment with Luffy basically
Yeah.
confronting Akainu. Akainu, to
That's
be
true.
real,
He
has
killed
been
Ace,
built
yeah.
up to be like a major villain, right? Or at least
Yeah.
antagonistic force. But it seems like Oda's kind of walking that back a little bit because, like, even Sakazuki's kind of like sick of the what's it,
bureaucracy.
world novels. Well, yeah, it's
Yeah.
the world novels, right? And it's like, yeah, I'm not trying to like understand like Sakazuki. You know what I'm saying? Like he's
Yeah.
killing his own Marines, right? Like he's going to kill his own Marines. He was involved in like destroying Ohara. He personally
Yeah.
killed Ace. He personally, no, I guess technically Blackbeard killed Whitebeard, but like either way, it's like this
Yeah.
dude is.
He
a
punched
bad-
a hole in his head.
He's supposed to be
He's
a
gonna
corrupt.
die.
I know it's a whole like absolute justice thing, but it's like he's supposed to be maybe not corrupt is the right word, but like
Yeah.
a borderline evil Marine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and you can call it absolute justice, whatever, but it's like he's doing kind of like evil things. So I
Right.
feel like if Luffy's gonna have that moment, and maybe there's just not room enough in the story, but Luffy's going to have obviously his get back with Blackbeard.
Yeah.
He's going to
Possibly.
be set up to fight Emu. I hope that Akainu
Well, Black-
is not ignored because he needs to get that ass whooped.
I feel like Akainu might get ignored only because he's old and he might get that. Oh, I retired. I bowed out the game before you can get me. Gotcha.
But
So,
it's like,
I
mean,
think
let's
that- I
hope it's
revisit
not
that,
like
and
that.
not to get into this too much, dude, but it's like
yeah.
this is the moment, right? Akainu just really wants to kill Ace real bad. I mean, keep in mind not the world government, the Marines were trying to kill Ace as like a child. They were trying to kill a baby. You know what I mean?
insane.
This is the Marines. This is what they were up to. Trying to kill a baby. Sees Ace. He's like, this guy's got to die. Ace is escaping, and he's like, okay, I'm just gonna insult your dad. I'm just gonna like really call you guys cowards. I'm gonna call you out, and then I'm just gonna like. He was not even going to kill Ace, right? Because Ace is escaping. He
Yeah.
was about to kill Luffy. That's
Yeah.
the thing. Like he was about to like. He's like, I'm gonna kill your little brother like in front of you right now. Since you're gonna run, I'm gonna kill him right now, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously that's when Ace turns around and then jumps and then blocks the blow. With his
Right.
body ultimately. Should have used Haki.
He could have blocked that differently, but
should have used that.
come
Haki
on.
that he probably should have known. But
I mean, I'm probably sure he used hockey.
I mean, I'm
it
just
wasn't
talking crap.
strong enough.
yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
talking crap. But the point being is like Sakazuki's an evil dude, and I just hope that he is not
Yeah.
ignored in the future of the story, which it feels like he is.
they might
Uh,
give it spoiler alert for those who may or may not have watched Vinland Saga, right? But there is that aspect in Vinland Saga where you don't always get that payback, right? And so Oda might play around
Vinland
with
Saga
that
is like on
concept
some,
because
like,
it is still sitting there.
yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
I hope he does get
the
that
themes of
get
Vinland
back
Saga
though.
are like everybody who watches Vinland Saga. Let's just be real. They want to
Yeah.
see young Thorfinn just kill people, bro. That's really what.
yeah, man.
I like Vinland Saga. I like they're doing mature themes,
Yeah.
but people
I don't
wanted
like
that
it.
action. People came.
No,
for the
I
action.
didn't want these mature themes. I
He said,
totally
"I
didn't want them at all.
Dude,
I love it.
people want to see that action because young Thorfinn had a crazy, awesome design, and we're not going to talk about this for
Yeah.
too long because we got to move on.
Yeah.
But his design
Yeah.
is awesome, and the fight scenes are incredible, and it
amazing.
is a completely different show, manga, whatever if you read it, when
Yeah.
you watch it, it changes completely. And I think
Yeah.
that a lot of fans who came for the blood, particularly like the gore and stuff like that, because it's pretty intense, they are a little like scratching their heads, like, where has my
For sure.
anime gone?
It reminds me of women who have an OnlyFans account, and when you
yeah.
get in there, they're reading you Bible scriptures.
Oh man, yeah,
I don't
That's
know
some
this
fire
from personal
content.
experience, but I've
That's
heard
quite
it
the
from people,
conundrum
and
there.
it's hilarious.
that's pretty funny. That's pretty.
Wait.
That's
good stuff.
dope.
That's
You
sick.
gotta,
That's
you gotta,
dope.
you
That's
gotta
what-
have the reviews for
Where do I sub?
those e-girls. Okay, anyways, all right, we got another topic to cover. We're gonna jump into it. If you guys are still watching, appreciate you. This is always fun. Hopefully you guys had a good time. Like, comment, do all those things. If you think that we totally got it wrong and that Gear Second is, I guess not a Super Saiyan moment, then let us know. If there's anything else you want to see us talk about, let us know. If there's any take or anything like that that you disagree with, let us know. We will personally respond to you in the comments and talk about you in a positive or negative way, depending on what you say. So, yeah, jump in. It's your boy Killy Cam. This is Anime Parley. Let the rest of the crew do their thing.
Peace and blessings. It's Wild and Free. I hit about 1.7 on the miles today.
Hey, let's get it.
Hell yeah.
That's cool.
Mugiwara Mike. I'm out.
Hey, bash catch him. Till next time.
All right. Till next time.